America was attacked, asking us to extend the deadline so they can get their own citizens home, not for any other reason. And the allies that we have fought for years together, he said no and yes to the Taliban. So no, none of that would have happened under a different administration. And yes, that was a failure. One of the biggest failures I watched from a foreign policy in my lifetime. And it's going to do a lot of damage to us. Not just in a short run, but a long run. What does China believe now about Taiwan? What does Russia think about the Baltics or the Eastern Europe? And not only when you talk, Jake, about the base, think of the location of where it is. The president talks about looking over, having eyes ahead of time. That base proximity to Russia, to China, to Pakistan. The idea of terrorists coming again from Afghanistan. You now, when you move people out, you don't have the intel.
But the administration says, since you bring up the base, that they don't have a capacity problem, and Bagram is 2.5 hours from Kabul, and they say, in their estimation, there's very little strategic value in getting people out to keeping it open. They say, that's their estimation. They say most of the people they're trying to evacuate are in Kabul.
They also said the Afghan government wouldn't collapse. They've said a lot. They also said they've also said you could get to the airport. They've also said a lot of things.
Some things they've been right on some things, but on Bagram.
No, they have not been right at all. And think about Bagram. You have 2 runways. You have 1 runway. Do you think every single American is sitting in Kabul? Bagram is not that far from Kabul. Why wouldn't you have 2 different options? You have other people throughout this country. And if you built a military base there, where we had sustained it for 20 years, why wouldn't you maintain it? We keep a base in Cuba today. Why wouldn't we keep a base for forward looking? Why wouldn't we keep a base in that geographical region of the world? Why would we release it? Why, if there was not one casualty in the last 18 months and only 2,500 troops had to be there, we were securing what we need to do. Why would you give it up? And first and foremost, if you were going to draw down, the Taliban fights in the summer and hibernates in the winter. If you were going to allow the Afghan government to sustain itself, why would you draw down when the Taliban is at its height? Why? Who made that decision? And why would you remove the military before you remove the civilians? And why would the president just days before says he's going to maintain normal operations in the embassy? How could we be that far wrong? So no, they didn't get anything right. And no, when he stands before us and tells us it's safe to go, and then you find out 30 minutes later it's not, I don't believe it was right to close the base. And you asked me a question, I would have kept it open. And I would have kept open. It gives you more options.
If you're holding a gavel next year, would you want to see a select committee look into this?
Look, we have
do it all in one.
No, we have a tremendous benefit here in Congress, not just on a Republican side, but a Democrat side too, of a number of members who served in the military, from all aspects. I mean, if you just listen to the newest member of Congress, Jake Elsley, this guy flew F-18s. He didn't just fly F-18s, and you know who his wingman was? Mike Garcia, off the aircraft carrier. But he also went into Afghanistan as a targeting person. He did it with Morgan Luttrell, who happens to be running for Congress. Twin brother of Marcus Luttrell, who Morgan was a Navy SEAL. Normally, you only go for about 3 days. They got stuck there for 30 days, ran out of food in 6. These are people that have been there. You have Navy SEALs. You have from Brian Mass, who lost his legs, to Dan Crenshaw. You have Crow on the other side of the aisle. We have people who have such expertise, who are on the ground and knowing. I would take it through all committees, from Armed Services to Foreign Affairs to Intel, and I would change Intel Committee back to the purpose of what their responsibility was. They have a responsibility of overseeing the agencies. But what did they do? They turned it to look within. They spent it as a political arm. Impeachment has never gone through the Intel Committee until the Democrats made it political. How much time had Adam Schiff spent of looking around the world of what his responsibility is? And when you're on the Intel Committee, You learn things that other members do not know. But he spent all of his time on politics. So yeah, I would look at that of what failure he created too.
McCarthy,
Yes.
so you said that you were discouraging members from going to Afghanistan, but you also said you understand the frustration of Congressman Moulton and Congressman Meyer. That is part of the justification that they are giving, that they're frustrated with the inability to conduct oversight from over here with the shaky intelligence. Are you concerned that some of your more, I want to say, impressionable members are going to take you saying that you understand this frustration
No.
as subliminal encouragement to make these
No,
trips?
I just watched Speaker Pelosi answer that question. I think that's the most time she spent on Afghanistan all week. And it offended me. It offended me as an American. She spent her time to criticize somebody. Look, they shouldn't go. These people are veterans. You know what they came when they got called back here? I talked to Peter Meyer a couple different times. I'll show you the text that he sent me was working to get people out. That's what his time. He was frustrated. You know how many calls I would get about the State Department they won't answer? I got an interpreter I worked with. Their families, they're stuck inside a house. They don't know that they can go out. Or an American family, and they're frustrated as a member of Congress trying to help these individuals, getting nowhere in sight. And they come back to Congress, called back in a special, and all they spend their time on is $5 trillion.
Did you say you talked to Meyer during the trip?
No,
He said he was
no.
working on getting
This was
people out.
prior. I knew nothing of Meyer taking. Meyer never talked to me about the trip. Never asked my opinion. Never asked for approval.
Is he going to face
No, I
discipline
have
for
not.
not getting approval before he went?
Huh?
Would he face any sort of discipline for not getting approval before he went and to in fact discourage other ones who might have a notion to go?
I
now?
don't think others really have the opportunity to go since everything's being pulled out. And I don't think it's smart for others to go. You're putting yourself, not yourself in harm's way, but you're putting Americans in harm's way if the military has to protect you, in which they will do, and they should not.
Are you interested in leading a CODEL at some point to Afghanistan or a neighboring country in the near future?
Now, I've been to Afghanistan before. I don't know if it's going to be able to have a CODEL. Do you think the Taliban is going to be a friendly government we're going to go interchange with? I mean, maybe the president thinks so, but I don't see that. I think what we're going to have to spend some time on now is things that we didn't have to spend time before. We're going to have to reassure our allies that we'll still keep our word. A number of our allies and from ambassadors and leaders I've spoken to question what America will do in the future. You watch our allies try to build a bigger relationship with China now, or with Russia, because they kept their words. Whereas we just had a president go against everything that America has stood for in the past. Made a decision, won't answer questions. We even have reports that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, had to wait 36 hours to get a return phone call as Afghanistan was collapsing. Can you imagine that? That our president's sitting at Camp David, and if the reports are true, how can that be possible? They are there with their military, risking their lives because America was attacked. They want to get their citizens out. And they're relying on our president just to try to get a phone call back. And when he has a G7 meeting, and they all request, can we have more time? He lets the Taliban decide the date, not the situation on the ground.
One more question, sir.
Yes.
On the refugees, the Afghan refugees, I mean, do you have a view on what's going on, how the administration's handling it? And
I'm concerned because reports I'm told, those who were early at the airport were not our interpreters who worked with us and others. The individuals that are leaving Afghanistan that are Afghan need to go to a third country and they have to be screened. We need to keep our word, but our word was, from a standpoint, I will tell you, from a ISIS, from Al Qaeda, and from a Taliban point of view, do you think they'll take advantage of this situation? Do you think they put some people in there? I pretty much believe they would. Just as we have people on the terrorist watch list coming into our open borders that need to stop. And that's something that the president has caused as well. Thank
If they're
you.
screened, would you support taking tens of thousands of Afghan SIV applicants into the country, resettling
Let's
them?
see who they are, let's see what our promises are, and let's keep them. Thank you all.
Hey, fired up. Kevin McCarthy.